Hey everyone, this is Puneet back again, and in this video we are going to learn 25 Excel formulas that can be super helpful for you if you want to prepare for a job interview. And we have all the sample files that you can download from the description and try it yourself along with the video. And do not forget to subscribe because I'll be coming out with 4 more videos on the same topic of formulas in coming weeks. So let's get started. Here in the cell A1, I have a time value and I want to add 15 minutes to this time. So for this, I'll use the time function. So I'll refer to the cell A1 and then I'll enter time function, and time function asks me for hour, minute and second. So as I want to add minutes, I'll enter 0 for hour and then 15 minutes for the minute argument and 0 for the second argument. So this tells Excel to only add 15 minutes to the time that we have in the cell A1. And the moment I hit enter, it returns 12:16 AM, which is 15 minutes ahead from the time that we have in the cell A1. All right, so here I have a date and I want to add an exact 1 year in this date. So what I want the date 1st of January 2023. So for this, I'll use a function called eDate and then refer to the date, the actual date, and after that I'll add 12. So 12 is basically equivalent to 1 year, and then I'll close the parenthesis and hit enter. So this is how I have the 1st January 2023. Here I have a date in the cell A1 and I want to add 3 weeks in this date. So the formula for this is quite simple. So you simply need to use the sum function and refer to the cell A1, and after that you need to specify the weeks that you want to add in the second argument. So for this, I'll go with 7 and using a asterisk sign to multiplication with 3. So 7 into 3 means 21 days. That's 3 weeks. And the moment I hit enter, it gives me Friday 22nd January 2021. That's 3 weeks from the original date exactly. And if you want to add a single week, you simply need to use 7, or you can also add 7 days in it. But if you want to go with multiple weeks, then you can use some function as well. All right, so I have a date here in the cell A1 and I want to get the month from this date, the only month. So for this, I'll use the text function and refer to the cell where I have the date, and after that I'll use the format MMM and then double quotation marks, closing, and then closing parenthesis. And now if I hit enter, it gives me the name of the month from that particular date. And if I want to get a full name of the month, I'll use 4M instead of 3. And now if I hit enter, it gives me January in the result. All right, so here I have a date and time in the cell A1 and I want to extract only date from this cell A1. So for this, I'll use the function int and refer to the cell A1 and then hit enter. The moment I hit enter, it gives me the date only from this value that we have in the cell A1. And if somehow it doesn't show you as a date, you simply need to go to the format and change the cell's format into a date. That's it. All right, so here I have a date and a time in the cell A1 and I want to get only time from this cell. So I'll use a small formula. So first of all, I'll refer to the cell A1 and I'll use a minus sign, and after that I'll insert the function int and again refer to the cell A1, enter the closing parenthesis and hit enter. And now I'll change the format of the cell from number to time. So here I have 11:30 a.m. That is the time that we have in the cell A1. So here I have a value in the cell A1 that is 125, and I want to calculate the cube root of this values. For this, I'll go to the cell B1 and I'll use the function power. So I'll enter the function, and in the first argument, I'll refer to the cell A1 where I have the value, and in the second argument, I'll use 1/3, and then I'll close the parenthesis and hit enter. So this is the easiest way to calculate a cube root. But apart from that, you can also use a manual formula without any function, that's using a circumflex operator. So for this, I'll again refer to the cell A1, and after that I'll enter the operator of circumflex that you can enter by using Shift +6 from your keyboard. And after that I'll enter 1/3 enclosed between parentheses, and then I'll hit enter. So these are the two ways to calculate cube root in Excel. So here I have a list of numbers in the column A, and from this list I want to count the unique values. So for this, first of all, I'll enter the count A function, and to get the unique values, I'll use the function unique. So unique is a new function, and in this function, first of all, I need to select the list from which I want to count, from which I actually want to get the unique values. And in the second argument, it asks me that if I want to return unique columns or unique rows. So we have one column and I want to get unique rows, so I'll go by false. And in the third argument, it asks me for if I want to get those values which are actually unique, or I want to get each value once. So I want to get each value once, and after that I'll close the parenthesis and hit enter. So it returns 6. That means there are 6 unique values in this list. Alright, so I have a date here in the cell A1, and I want to get the name of the day from this date. So I want the day name, that is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So for this, I'll go to text function, select the cell, and in the format text, I'll use DDD, and again the closing parenthesis, and then hit enter. So this is how I can get the name of the day, name of the weekday from the date. And if I want the full name instead of a short name, I'll use 4 Ds here. Yes, that's it. So here I have a date in the cell A1, and I want to get the day number of this date. So there are 2 ways to get the day number. The first is to get the day number within the month. So if I use the day function, that returns the day of the month from the date, so it will return 1. So that is the date is 1st January 2021. That means the first day of the month. But in the same way, if I want to get the day number from the week, in that case I need to use the function weekday. So I'll go to the cell A1, I'll refer to the cell A1, and after that I'll specify the second argument that asks me that what kind of week I want to take. So if I want to start my date from Sunday, or if I want to start my week from Monday or any day, there are options that I can select. So I want to start my day by Monday, and after that I'll close the parenthesis and hit enter. So it says the 5th is the day number. So 1st January has, and let me show you the day, the name of the day here. So it's Friday. So if I start my week from Monday, so Friday is the 5th day in the week. So that is why it has returned 5. So you have 2 ways to get the day number. One is between the month, from 1 to 31 days, and the second is to get the day number within the week. So here I have few dates in the column A, and I want to get total number of days for each month. So in cell A2 I have the date 1st January 2021, and I want to calculate the total number of days that I have in the January month. So for this I'll use a formula that is the combination of the day function and EO month function. So first of all I'll enter day function, and then I'll enter EO month function. Now for the start date I'll refer to the date that I have, and for the month I will use 0. And now the moment I hit enter, it gives me the total number of days that I have in the month of January. And now I'll drag it down to get the total days for rest of the months. So this is a quick formula to calculate total number of days that you have in a particular month. Here in the column A, I have few numbers, and some of these numbers are negative. So now I want to write a if condition, and I want to replace negative numbers with a 0. So here in the cell B1, I'll write my if condition with the if function. So I'll refer to the cell A1, and I'll use a lower than operator. So if my value is lower than 0, that is negative value, I want a 0. Otherwise, I'll go with the number that I have in the cell. So as in the cell A1, I have 9, which is a positive number. So it has returned 9. But the moment I drop this formula to the next cell, which is a negative number, it returns 0. So it's a simple way to write a if condition using the if function when you want to replace negative numbers with zeros. All right, so here I have few values in the column A and B. I have a column of dates and a column of values. Now I want to sum values based on a range of dates. So for this, I'll use the SUMIF function. And in the first argument of the SUMIF, I will specify the column or the range from where I want to sum values. So that is the column B, B2 to B31. And in the second argument, I'll specify the range from where I want to look up for the criteria. So that is A2 to A31. Now in the first criteria, I will specify the minimum date, the lower date of the range. So that is 15th of January. But along with that, I will also specify a lower than and equals operator to create that range, so that it will specify, or it will refer to the date 15 and dates which are upper than that. So I will use a double quotation marks and a greater than sign and equal sign, and again I'll close it, and with the ampersand I will select, or I will specify the date that I have in the cell D5. Now again, to create a range of date for the the maximum date or the maximum range of the date, I'll again specify the criteria, and now I'll create that criteria of upper date. So again I will use the lower than and equals to sign. So this way it will only refer to the dates which are lower than the maximum date or equals to it. And I'll close the I'll enter the double quotation marks to close it, and I'll use ampersand, and after that I'll refer to the date which is the highest date in the range, that is 25th of January. Now here I have, let me re-explain this function here, the formula. This is the sum range where I want to sum the values. So this is the range where I have dates, and I want to refer to the dates which are either equals to the 15th January or higher than that. And now again I have this date range, the criteria range, and in the criteria I have specified to refer to the dates which are lower than 25 or equals to it. So this way I have a range of criteria from 15th January to 25th of January. So it's a range from where I want to look up for the dates, and I want to sum values for only those dates. Now the moment I hit enter, it returns 15682. All right, so here in the column A, I have few values, and in these values, I have few, unwanted spaces. So in Excel, there are multiple functions that you can use to remove these spaces. And the first function out of those is the trim function. Now, when I use trim function and refer to the cell A1 and hit enter, it removes the spaces, all the spaces that I have before and after the, the value, but it will not remove the one space, that single space between two words. So this is the first function that you can use. Now if I try to use the same function with these values where I have numbers, so in this case it removes all the unwanted spaces, but it will not remove the spaces, the one single space that we have between two values. So here if I say 9 and 9, there is a space between these two nines, and I don't want this space. The trim function is working fine. There is no problem with the trim function, but the value, the type of the value is that I don't want that single space between the two values. So for this, what I will do, I'll use the substitute function. So I'll use the substitute function and refer to the cell where I have the value, and in the old text, I will enter a space because I want to remove the space. I want to substitute the space basically. So I will enter space in the old text, and in the new text I will enter a blank value. Blank value means no value, and the moment I hit enter, it removes all the spaces that I have in the cell and the value. Now if you see in the original value, you have 13 characters, and in the value that is returned by the substitute function, we have 10 characters. This is a mobile number which is like consists of 10 different digits, and if I drag it down and try to count the length of the characters, so that's 10. So these are the two ways to remove unwanted spaces in Excel. It depends on the situation, and there's also one more function that you can use, and that's the clean function that removes all the non-printable characters from the text. It depends like which kind of value you have and which kind of spaces you want to remove. All right, so here I have a time value in the cell A1 and A2, and I want to convert this time into the military time. So in military time, we don't have this colon between hours and minutes, and we don't have this AM and PM. Military time is basically works on the 24 hours of time format. So for this, I'll use the text function, and I will refer to the time, and in the format I'll use HHMM. So as I said, there is no colon and AM and PM in the military time, so we don't have to specify the same thing in the format that I want to get in the cell B1. So the moment I hit enter, it gives me the 0035, and the moment I drag this formula to the second time value, it says 1235 hours. That means the 12:35 PM, that is the afternoon. All right, so here I want to generate some random letters. In Excel, there is a function called char. Now this function actually returns a specific character based on the number you specify in the function. So if you want to get a alphabet, that is a letter, you can use 65. So when you use 65, it returns A in the capital letter, so capital A. And if you specify 97, it returns a small a. So its range of alphabets is 65 to 90 for capital letters, and 97 to 122 for lower letters. So if I want to generate a random letter, I can use the rand between function and character function to get a random letter. So how will I use it? I'll enter this schar function, and in this function I'll use the rand between, basically the rand between function, and for the bottom I'll specify 65 and I will specify 90 for the top. So this way this rand between function will return a random number between 65 to 90, and the char function, the char function, will convert that number into the alphabet. Now the moment I hit enter, it returns T. So it's a random character, random letter based on a random number. And if I want to get a letter, an alphabet in small letters, I'll change the range from 197 to 122. Now the moment I hit enter, it returns P in small letters. So in this way you can combine char and rand between function to generate a random letter in Excel. All right, so here I have a number in the cell A1 and I want to calculate the square root for this number. So for this I'll use the sqrt function and refer to the cell A1 where I have the number, and then enter the closing parenthesis, and in the end I'll hit enter. So this is the easiest way to calculate square root for a number in Excel. All right, so here I have few numbers in the column A and I want to add leading zeros to this number. So what I want to have 7 digits with a number. So if a number is of 2 digits, I want the rest of the digits is 0. So for this I'll use the text function, and then I'll refer to the number, and after that for format I'll specify 7 zeros. So as I said, if a number is of 1 digit, the rest of the 6 digits will be 0. So the moment I hit enter, it gives me 1 with 6 zeros in the leading. So now I'll drag this formula, and in this way I have a 0 with each number according to the digits of the number. All right, so here I have a list of dates in the column A and I want to get quarter for each of these dates. So for this I'll use a combination of 2 functions, that is choose and month. So here I'll enter choose and then month. So for month I'll refer to the date for which I want to get the quarter, and for choose, for rest of the arguments of the choose, I'll create a index where I will enter 1 1 1 . Now this index from 1 to 4 is basically the quarters of each month out of all the 12 months. So first January to March we have 1, that is a quarter 1, and for April to June we have quarter 2, and for July to September we have 3, and for October to December we have 4. So this way, when the month function returns a number of the month, choose will give you the quarter against that month number. So now if I hit enter, it returns 1, and if I drag this formula to rest of the dates, it gives the quarter respectively for that particular month. And I can also add a alphabet Q before the number. I'll simply use the ampersand sign here and hit enter. So this is how I can get quarter from a particular date. Now, if I want to get quarters according to the financial year instead of the normal January to December year, I simply need to change the index that I have in the formula. So here, starting from 1 to 4, I'll use an index where I'm starting from 4. So here from January to March, I have 4, and April to June, I have 1, and July to September, I have 2, and for October to December, I have 3. So the moment I hit enter, it returns 4 for January to March, and then April to June, and July to September, and October to December. So this is the easiest way to get quarter from a particular date. And here I have a value in the cell A1, and I want to round this value to the nearest thousands. So for this, I'll use the simple round function and refer to the number. And as I want to round it to the nearest thousand, that is with 3 zeros, so I'll use -3 here, and I'll close the function. So I have the number and -3, and the moment I hit enter, it returns the number 1 2 3 4 5 7, and after that I have 3 zeros. So it's basically rounding up because the last value that I have is 789, which is closest to the upward thousand. So if I have a value which is downwards, for example, if I have here 489 instead of 789, so it will round it to 6000, which is the nearest thousand to this number. So you need to use -3 in the number digit argument to round it to the nearest. And if you want to round it to nearest 100, so in that case, you just need to use the same function, and instead of using -3, you can use -2, and it will round it to the nearest 100. And in the same way, you can use -1 if you want to round it to the nearest 10. So for this, I'll use a simple function, that is count A, and the moment I specify the range and close the parenthesis and hit enter, it returns 6. So this is the count of cells in the range A1 to A10 where I have a value. So 6 cells with a value. Now, apart from this, there is one more function that you can use, and that's COUNTIF. So in COUNTIF, I'll specify the range, and after that, I'll specify a criteria. So criteria will be not equals to, and after that, I'll specify a ampersand, not equals to blank. So this tells Excel that I'm looking for the cells, I'm trying to count the cells which are not equals to a blank cell, a blank value. Now the moment I hit enter, it returns 6. Now when you're using COUNTIF function, you can also specify the criteria just by using the not equals to sign. You don't need to specify the blank value along with it, and it will give you the same count. So these two methods are interchangeable. You can use them the way you want. Now the real thing is, if in this range where I have 6 non-blank cells, if I enter a space, if somehow you have a space which is a which is an invisible space that you cannot see until you edit a cell, the moment you enter this invisible space, the count of the non-blank cells will change. So in that case, you will not be able to conclude the actual number of non-blank cells. Now in that case, I need to use the COUNTIF function, and here I will use 2 different criteria. So first I'll specify the range, and again I'll use the not equals sign. And in the second criteria, let me specify the range again. Now in the second criteria, I will tell Excel, I will tell this function that also not to count cells where I have a blank. So for this, I'll again specify the not equals, and apart from that, I will combine it with a blank value. So the first criteria tells to not to count cells which are blank, and the second criteria tells and also not to count the cells which have a blank space. So let me enter a blank space here, a normal space basically. And now the moment I enter the parentheses and hit enter, it returns 6, which are the actual count of non-blank cells in the range A1 to A10. So here I have few values in the range A1 to A10, and some of the cells are blank, and I want to count that how many cells are blank here. So for this, I'll use the function count blank, and I'll specify the range, that is A1 to A10, and hit enter. So it says 4, and here I have 4 cells which are blank. Now apart from that, I can also use the COUNTIF function, and for this I need to specify the range in the first argument, and then I need to specify the equal sign and enclose it in double quotation marks, and after that I'll enter the closing parenthesis. So this criteria tells Excel to count the cells where there is no value, so equals nothing. So I'm using the equal sign, but I'm not specifying any value. So the moment I hit enter, it returns 4. That is the count of blank cells from the range. So here I have few values in the column A, and I want to sum values that are below 25. So for this, I'll use the SUMIF function, and for the first argument, that is range, I'll specify the range in which I want to look up for the criteria. And mind you, this is the same list of values from where I want to sum the values. So criteria and the values where I want to sum is the same range. So I'll specify A2 to A13, and after that I'll specify criteria using a lower than operator. So for this, I'll enter the lower than operator, and I'll specify the number, that is 25, and I'll enclose them in double quotation marks. And after that, there is one more argument, that is some range, which I don't need to define because I already have the range from where I want to sum the value. So I'll just enter the closing parenthesis and hit enter. So it gives me 1, 1, 2, which is the sum of all the values which are below 25. And if I want to include 25 into this criteria, I'll simply use an equal sign as well. And now if I enter if I add a 25 value in this list, it will include that 25 in the criteria. And you can also use a criteria value from a range instead of directly entering it into the formula. So I'll change the criteria a little bit from here, and I'll enter. So basically I will refer to a cell, and now in this cell I will specify the number which I want to use as the criterion. All right, so here we will understand the concept of 3D reference, the 3D range. So 3D range is basically a range of multiple sheets. So if you see, I have this value 100 in the cell A1, and I have 5 different sheets here. So in each sheet, the value in the cell A1 is 100, and I want to refer to all the 5 sheets in a single a formula or a function. So for this, I'll create a range of the sheets and then refer to the cell A1. So I'll enter the simple sum function, and here I will create a range of the sheets. So I'll enter sheet 1 and then a colon, the way we create a range of cells basically. And after that, I will specify the sheet 5. So the range is from sheet 1 to sheet 5, and after that I need to enter and exclamation sign, and after that I will specify the cell to which I want to refer. And if you want to refer to an entire range, you can simply go and specify the range this way. So it's referring to the cell A1 to A5 in each of the sheet that we have in this range of sheets. So sheet 1 to sheet 5, but right now I just want the cell A1, and now I will close this function and hit enter. So it should give me the sum of all the cell A1 in all the sheets. So cell A1 from all the 5 sheets, and the moment I hit enter, it gives me 500. So we have this 3D range, a range of sheets. So here I have few values in the column A, and I want to count the cells which have text values. So I want to ignore the numbers, and I also want to ignore the Boolean values that are true and false. So basically I have 3 cells here that have text values, but I want to count these cells with a formula. So for this I'll use the COUNTIF function, and then I'll refer to the range, and in the criteria I will use an asterisk sign and enclose it with double quotation marks, and after that I'll enter a closing parenthesis and hit enter. So it gives me 3 in the result. That is the count of the cells with actual text value. So if somehow you have a space, it will also count that space as a text value, but here I want to ignore that space. I just want to have actual number of cells which have text value. So for this I'll little bit mold my formula. So I'll simply use COUNTIFs here. Instead of COUNTIF, I'll use COUNTIFs. So I'll again refer to the range, and I'll use asterisk here in the same way, and I'll create a one more criteria with the same range, and here I will create a not equal value with a space. So I'm telling my formula to not to count a cell which have a space. And now if I hit enter, it returns 6. So when I hit enter, it returns 3, which is the actual number of cells with text values. Now here one more point, why I'm using asterisk to count the text values. So when you use asterisk as a criteria, it ignores the numbers and Boolean values that we have here, true and false. It only gives you the cells which have textual values as a format.